see. Wonderful and welcome. I am Amiee Elizabeth, somatic and intuitive healer. And today, Monica has been kind enough to volunteer her birth chart, which can take a lot of bravery depending on our individual feelings about potential exposure. And the first thing I'm going to touch on is I have this nice list of what I am just considering kind of major aspects as we move through May. Every week I post a little weekly in the community that speaks to the things that I ping. And then I dive into those more in my archetypal astrology group. So everyone is welcome to join that. This week, we are in what I call the eclipse peduncle, or you can call it the eclipse portal. The peduncle, for people who don't know what that is, if you're familiar with a funnel, you've got the big, thick, and then it squeezes down. The peduncle is the part where it squeezes down. So if you are feeling squeezed or really just drained and exhausted, that is a normal eclipse experience. Eclipses are these deep churning times, and we had an eclipse on April 30th. And that was a solar eclipse. It was a partial solar eclipse in Taurus at 10 degrees of Taurus, aspecting Uranus. So there was a lot of shaky in our body experience to that. Now, the next eclipse that takes us out of the peduncle is on May 15th or 16th. Adjust for your time zone. The eclipse peaks on May 15th at 11:14 p.m. Central Time. So if you are on the East Coast, that is 12:14 a.m. on the 16th, which is why I'm framing it the 15th or the 16th. So adjust to your time zone, please. And I've got my fingers crossed that the sky is clear, because getting to watch lunar eclipses is so cool. And just bathing in that energy and really sitting back in it. The moon moves through a single sign of the zodiac. There are 12 in 2.5 days. So she is a quick mover. So she's going from a new moon on the 30th to a full moon on the 15th or 16th. And that full moon, right now we're building. When you go from a new moon to a full moon, it's building creation energy. And then once we hit that full moon eclipse, we're going to be going from a new moon to a full moon to a new moon, which happens on May 30th. And that is releasing energy. So this eclipse portal, because it's a double, not a triple, because we can have triple hit eclipses, is going to be providing us with release for the 2 weeks after we come out of the peduncle. It's like we come out of this tight space and the funnel opens up and we start to have some more space. And eclipses happen because the nodes, which are points in the sky related to the moon, shift backwards through a natal chart, which I will show you natal chart once we get to Monica's chart, compared to how the rest of the chart moves. And right now they're in the Taurus and Scorpio axis, and they will be there. They moved into that axis on January 18th of 2022, and they will be in that axis until July 17th of 2023, which gives us this about 18.5-month period to really dig in to our Taurus Scorpio energy. So Taurus is of the body. Scorpio is what we're releasing. It's the things we don't want to talk about or we don't want to see. It can be sticky. It is death, sex, and taxes. It is accounting and auditing. If we look at it from a body perspective, to embody the astrology, Taurus is our jaw and our neck. Scorpio is the bottom of our body. It's our genitals. It's our elimination system. It's our reproductive organs. So that was kind of a little 101. It was fast and furious. So it's good we're recording. Looking at the aspects. Today, Venus is going to enter Aries. So she's leaving Pisces, entering Aries, and she can bring this spark. Venus is sparkly and amazing. And while Venus right now is a morning star, she is on her descent journey. And she's most sparkly when she's an evening star. I'm like giving away my directions here. Morning east, evening west. Venus brings this harmonious aspect, this beauty, this sensuality, and this pleasure when she's in her light and her highest form. So she enters Aries on the 5th. The Sun and Uranus are going to conjoin. They're going to come together in Taurus. So be watching for unexpected changes that day. On the 10th of May, Jupiter is going to enter Aries, bringing an expansion to the new. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the coming of spring. One of the things that is coming in 2023 is a shift to my retreat schedule around the Aries new moon. It is the best time to be manifesting. It's the best time to be vision boarding, because that is when the energy, that's when the new year starts, is that Aries new moon. So this is why following the moon cycles is fun, because you can start to time your growth and your release cycles. So Jupiter is going to enter Aries, expanding that new energy that is Aries, this rebirth and this spring in the Northern Hemisphere. Mercury also stations retrograde on the 10th. Now, Mercury stationing retrograde can feel, the common umbrella is don't sign contracts, read your emails like 8 times, that there's going to be communication foul-ups. Mercury is also transportation. He is technology, and he's a trickster. So he just wants to make sure we're paying attention. The messenger of the gods. He can go from the underworld to the middle world to Olympus. He can go to all the places. He can speak all the languages. He is this great translator. And for people that have Mercury retrograde natally in their birth chart, Monica, you do not. Mercury retrograde can feel like a really comfortable time. It is a beautiful time for everybody to turn inward. Retrogrades are times of review, renewal, refreshing, renovation. Go ahead and put RE in front of any variety of words, and you will have the feel of what a retrograde means. All of revolution. Thank you, Monica. Yes. All of the planets go retrograde. The sun and the moon do not, although the moon does have a wobble, which we associate mostly with the nodes. The nodes wobble. So Mercury is also in its shadow from April 25th until June 18th. Rebirth. Excellent. Thank you, Tim. And that shadow period is the time when Mercury starts to slow down, and it marks the area of the sky that Mercury will transit and then go back over and then visit one more time. So it's like this, it's going to show us things, and then we can make a plan about what we've seen, and then we can start to implement the plan. It's a beautiful triple hit opportunity to deepen and deepen and deepen. On the 13th, the sun is going to conjunct the North Node in Taurus, bringing just a little bit more illumination. Then on the 15th or the 16th, again, depending on your time zones, at 11:14 p.m. Central Time, we have a full moon lunar eclipse at 25 degrees of Scorpio. On the 18th, Mars and Neptune conjoin in Pisces. I'm going to have a few more Mars aspects in this little rundown than I would normally do, simply because in my women's circle this month, we're working with Mars. So I am paying close attention to him. The 20th, the sun enters Gemini. Happy Gemini season, everybody. Gemini is the shoulders, and it's this split. It's this twin aspect, the ability to see more perspectives than just your own, and maybe even see all of the perspectives involved in a situation. Gemini is a fast mover. It zips along. It's got a lot of things going on. It's an air sign. The 21st, the sun is going to conjunct Mercury in Gemini. So Mercury is going to be retrograde when that happens, but Mercury is also at home in retrograde in Gemini. Gemini is one of the signs that Mercury rules. All my little notes here. The 24th, the moon is going to conjunct Mars at 29 degrees of Pisces. Now, Mars is not terribly comfortable in Pisces. And it gives Mars a good opportunity to find compassion. And the moon is going to bring in, the moon is our internal emotional world. So this moon coming in and conjuncting Mars, it's going to be a quick conjunction because the moon is a fast mover. Remember, it moves through an entire sign, 30 degrees in 2.5 days. So the conjunction is only going to last a couple hours. And it feels valuable bringing in because 29 degrees is what's called a master degree. It's one of the 2 master degrees. So it's going to kind of give us like a PhD crash course and an opportunity to look at our kind of framing around honor and loyalty, our ability to desire growth. Because Mars was in his oldest form an agrarian god. And a lover. He wasn't just this god of war who was about aggression and, taking care of the soldiers. And while that is important, and I love Mars's really high aspect of no one left behind, Mars is in his deepest roots, pun intended, an agrarian god. He is about growing and expanding. And sometimes to grow and expand, we have to see a level of destruction, and that's okay. Because when something dies in the forest, a whole new ecosystem is born, and that death creates space for life. We're in this beautiful cycle, and the only thing that is guaranteed here is that we're not getting out of this alive. So we may as well make the best of it while we're here, like really soak in the beauty of it. On the 25th, Mars enters Aries. He comes home. He moves from the discomfort of Pisces into his home sign, and he gets to stretch his legs. And now we're going to have Venus in Aries, Mars in Aries, and Jupiter in Aries. So we're moving what was watery Piscean energy into this fiery cardinal spark of Aries. Mercury is retrograde. He's going to be trining retrograde Pluto. So Mercury in Taurus is going to be trining retrograde Pluto in Capricorn. And I love me some Pluto. So if you want to dive more into that Pluto energy, he is also giving us a big, huge PhD level course on transformative possibilities by digging in and revealing places where there is corruption going on and non-truths being spoken. Pluto, Hades, means unknown and wealth. And he's in an earth sign right now. So he is revealing Pluto in Capricorn is about top-down authority. Where is the corruption? Where is the mess in outside authority demanding things of us? Because our authority needs to come from inside of us, so that we're working in alignment with our central channels and the highest good. Because when one works in highest good, it just ripples out. I watch it all the time happen, and it's beautiful. It is that mystical truth of our interconnection. The 26th, Venus in Aries is going to square off with retrograde Pluto in Capricorn. And now they met 3 times at the end of 2021 and the beginning of 22 to kind of powwow, because Venus and Pluto are both about our values. What do we value? How do we value? They both also have relationships with money and wealth. So the two of them squaring off, a square can be a really uncomfortable aspect because it's asking us to overcome a challenge. And the challenge is most often that we can't see around a 90-degree corner. We don't know what's next. So can we work from a place of faith that we can trust the universe and surrender and know that we're held and it has our highest good, our best intentions, even if it doesn't look the way our ego wants it to go. I know so often I can look back and be like, that did not happen the way my little head had it planned out. It happened better. I may have not liked the process and it happened better. So being able to trust. The other way I like to look at a square is that when we are sitting in a chair, the way that most people sit in a chair with our feet on the floor and our butts in the seat, our legs create a 90-degree angle. And when those two energies, our hips and our feet, work together, we can overcome. That helps us stand up. So it helps us be able to move past, it propels us up and over any obstacle or up and into any opportunity, depending on how you are programmed to receive and feel it. Then on the 28th, Mars and Pluto are going to conjoin at 3 degrees of Aries before they square off with Black Moon Lilith over in Cancer. Black Moon Lilith is this yummy, juicy, dark goddess energy. She is the conglomerate of all the dark goddesses. Lilith, Hecate, Persephone, Kali, Durga. Nemesis. She brings all this dark goddess energy. And the dark goddess energy is birthing fierce truth. She is this midwife that wants us standing in our right anger. To hear more about that, go to the Archetypal Astrology group, watch my Nemesis Mars pieces, because yum. On the 31st, the moon is going to be busy that day. She is going to square off with Neptune in Pisces and trine Saturn over in Aquarius. The moon's in Gemini when she's doing this. So spoke about a square. A trine is a supportive aspect. So the moon trine Saturn in Aquarius offers us this opportunity. Saturn's this workhorse, which we will get into more with Monica's chart, is the work that Saturn asks of us. And his tenure right now in Aquarius, not 10 years, but tenure in Aquarius, is asking us to rethink and have a little bit more innovation around the way we see work, what our relationship is with work, how we think about our work. So I also want to bring in that Mars is aspecting both of the eclipses. So with that in mind, that's our little rundown. And I want to jump right into your chart, Monica. And then we'll hopefully have some time for some questions afterwards. So Monica, thank you for being willing to share your chart. Can you unmute and share with us kind of what you wanted focused on in this little sample reading? It's just going to be a little piece.
Thank you, first of all, for doing this. I'm super excited. I think I would like to focus on my work and how to be able to impact more people.
Mm-hmm. So we're just gonna kind of run this simply. Your work, your 10th house, and your 6th house. So I'm looking these numbers 1 through 6 on the bottom, 7 through 12 on the top. The 6th house is your 6th house is Gemini, and the 6th house is the house of our day-to-day work and our inner work. This is the house of the magic is in the mundane, bringing in sacredness to the things that we do, really loving up our day-to-day routines and feeling are these day-to-day routines in a line with my inner work? So that's piece 1. In this house, you have a natal Chiron. Your North Node is also in this house. So there is an essence of the North Node can be our leadership energy, a part of our leadership energy. It is a flag that waves and says, if you come this way, things could be more smooth. So the more you can move into honing your day to day, and one of your things is you are a healer of sleep, which I would guess, and please correct me at any point if none of this resonates, that there is a routine that can be created to help sleep work for people.
Yep.
There is this moving into routine. And I would venture to say that because your Chiron is in this house, it has taken you on a journey of healing your own wounds to find your way to this. Chiron is the wounded healer. And when we work with our Chiron energy, we find out that the medicine is actually in the wound and the healing of the wound. So, and I could be off. I'm always willing to be wrong. I'm always willing to be corrected. And then there's your Vesta here. That speaks to me of the fact that your day-to-day routine, your day-to-day recognition of the magic in the mundane feeds your inner fire to an extent. Vesta is the keeper of our inner flame. She is this goddess of home and hearth. She was never a goddess that had a lot of temple spaces. Because every home had a fireplace, a hearth, or a stove or an oven, if we wanted to bring it more into how we live now, that is the place that Vesta lives. She is this nourishment for home. She is the nourishment of hearth, and she keeps our flame fed. So any questions about any of those pieces?
No, it makes sense.
That's resonating?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to pop up here to the other house of work. This is your 10th house, and it's Libra. You've got a 1-degree sun placement and a 28-degree Pluto placement. So Libra is about how we seek balance in the world. Libra often gets a bad rap as being balanced. And I say that that's a bad rap because that indicates a stagnation and a lack of ability to move with the changes that come with day-to-day life. Like if we're living our lives, we're moving from a place of how do we dance with this, right? And so we're having to seek balance. We're having to work at it. Your sun is how you shine. So that is our sense of willpower. I often feel my sun in my solar plexus, which it shines over this fertile field of my second chakra, which is our space of creativity. So that's why I experience my sun in my solar plexus, is it feeds the fields of my creativity, which sit in my pelvis. And you also have Pluto here. So Pluto in Libra is a generational piece. And I go through the Pluto generations in the archetypal astrology group. And Pluto in Libra is about creating social justice, creating equality, creating change in the world, it's a generational signature. Those of us with Pluto in Libra have a drive and a push this way, that we want to see more equality. We want to see more accessibility that levels the playing field. Are we resonating so far?
Yes. When you say generational, it's like me doing the work for a whole generation, or what is that?
Everybody who was born while Pluto was in Libra, we are the Pluto in Libra soul generation. That's our soul family.
Oh, okay.
So all of us that have Pluto, I'm dating myself. All of us that have Pluto in Libra, I have Pluto much earlier in Libra than you do. All of us that have Pluto in Libra have a drive, just like Pluto in Scorpio, Pluto in Sagittarius, Pluto in Capricorn. I have a Pluto in Capricorn baby. Their job is to break authority. And let me tell you, he is a kitten sharpening his claws on a daily basis. Just as we were once kittens sharpening our claws by pushing back at the people around us who were suggesting that life isn't fair, or the world isn't fair, or that things can't be fair or equal because some people deserve more than others, or some people work harder than others. It's something that I definitely hear from people of our generation. That was a message we got. And most of us really pushed back against it because it landed in our body in such a dissonance and such an uncomfortable way. And the 10th house is your house of highest purpose. So your sun is here and your Pluto is here. This ability to shine your light and to bring transformation. And to know that transformation can be sticky. It can be hard. So are these things resonating so far?
Yeah, totally.
Any questions? Because there were a couple things that I just wanted to make sure to touch on specifically for you.
Just I know that this changes daily, right?
Well, okay, so we're just going to run over this quick. This is your houses. These here on the inside, all of these dark glyphs and symbols and words, those are your natal placements. That is a picture of the sky at the moment of your birth. That holds steady. It doesn't move.
Okay.
Here we have our zodiac sign. So if I were to look at this, I would say you're a Libra sun, a Taurus moon, and a Capricorn rising. So oftentimes when we look at horoscopes, they look at just the sun sign. And the sun sign is how we shine our light. It's this very, very small piece. The moon sign is what our emotional world is. You're a Taurus moon, and that's oftentimes associated with the Egyptian goddess Hathor. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She is, and I see this in your work, she's very nourishing. She's nurturing. She's a mother goddess. She wants to make sure that we're held and nurtured. So the moon is our emotional self. It is how we connect to our hearts, and it's how we pour out our love. So there is this nourishing aspect. And with this being in your 5th house of creativity, you have created, you have dug up an expression of nourishment through how do I help people sleep? Because what is more nourishing than we spend so much time in our sleep? And it is where our body regenerates. It's where our cellular structure heals. So there is this healing aspect to how you express your moon in the world. And you do want your moon expressed in the world, your ability to nourish, your ability to help people learn to feed their wellness. And then this rising Capricorn piece. So Capricorn is your 1st house. AC, this is your rising point, 14 degrees, 47 minutes. That is the place that the horizon was at the moment of your birth. It is the place where the light and the dark meet. So this is your house of personality and ego, how you see yourself in the world and how others perceive you. It is where we shine our light, right? Because this is who I am. And Capricorn is this beautiful energy. It builds. Capricorn is a builder. It is a CEO. It is a creator of things. It is our ability to not only have an idea, but be able to bring it into the world, because it's an earth sign. So there's this really grounded, and your double earth with this Capricorn moon placement. There's a lot of earthy, grounding, gentle nourishment to you. So that's, I don't know if that answered your question fully. I kind of got off on a tangent. I do that. I just go places.
Yes and no. So I like, my question goes directly when, for example, you put, okay, if you have, I don't know how many degrees and there's like, how can I look into that?
Yes. So I got sidetracked. We were headed there. These green guys on the side here, that's the sky. So
Okay.
these are the guys that move. And all of the things on this, with the exception of the nodes, move counterclockwise. So everything on here is moving this way, with the exception of this little guy here. This is the south node in Scorpio. And the north node in Taurus here, they're moving clockwise through this. So that's the picture of the sky. Those are the pieces that are moving, which brings us to kind of, did I get your question now? Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for keeping track of me and bringing me back on track. You are in your Neptune square and your Pluto square. And this eclipse season, this nodal transit is going to hold you until July 17th of 2023, is in your 11th house of community and your 5th house of play. So now what does all of that mean in English, right? Let's start with the squares. As we move into a certain place in life where we move into our 40s, we enter this time of what we collectively in the West call the midlife crisis.
Midlife wisdom.
Exactly. It is midlife wisdom if we can move with it with a consciousness. So Pluto square Pluto. Pluto takes 248 years per NASA to make it all the way around the sun. So we will never experience a Pluto return in our earthly life. I just want to make a note to come back to your Saturn. But what we do experience is a Pluto square, and perhaps, we'll also experience some sextiles and some trines, but we're going to keep this pretty simple today. So you'll see that transiting Pluto is out here retrograde at 28 degrees in your first house. And your natal Pluto is up here in your 10th house at 28 degrees. Yay, you get a triple hit Pluto square. And now that may sound like a thing, because as I said, squares can be challenge. They can also be opportunity, because what is a challenge but an opportunity? And Pluto in Capricorn right now is digging down. As he retrogrades, he's going to be at 28 degrees until June, at which point he's going to start to move backwards. This Pluto here is going to start to move backwards through Capricorn. And then he's going to station again. He has about a 5-month retrograde, and he's going to come back and revisit. So he's a slow mover. It's like trying to turn the Titanic, and we all know how well that went. He's a slow mover, and he is really going to be challenging you to really clean up and peel back all of the layers around how you perceive your relationship with authority and how you perceive your relationship with balance, How do you create transformation in this? And oftentimes we create the best transformation, from my opinion, by peeling back what our belief system is. So we can get down to, is this mine? Or is this something else I'm carrying? It's, it's the story of the granddaughter with the ham. Do you know the story of the granddaughter and the ham? So she's doing Easter dinner, right? And she gets out her pan and she cuts off the ends of the ham. And then she looks at her mom and she says, Mom, why do we do it this way? Why do we cut off the ends of the ham? Mom says, well, I don't know. I'll call your grandma and ask. Mom calls grandma. Grandma says, well, my mom's pan was never big enough to fit a whole pan, so we had to cut the ends off of it. Meanwhile, the great granddaughter has a pan that is plenty big to hold the ham, but she's still cutting the ends off of it because that's what she was taught. So there are all kinds of things that we do in the world that have nothing to do with us because our pan is big enough to hold the whole ham. So this is a beautiful time as you move into the transits of early through like mid 40s. They end about 46, this whole series of big transits, where you get to start to peel back your layers and look at, is this mine? How does it affect my relationship with wealth? How does it affect my relationship with rules? How willing am I to transform? So there's going to be all kinds of really juicy Pluto opportunities, because remember, Pluto is the guy who whispers in our ear constantly, and there's more. He was there supporting Persephone through her claiming of her sovereignty by whispering, and there's more. And then we get to decide if we're going to go after our more or not. So that's the Pluto square. So it's transiting Pluto. He's here, squaring off with your natal Pluto here. And then your Neptune square is the other piece. Neptune is here in your third house of Pisces. That is his transiting position. And he's at 23 degrees now. And your natal Neptune is up here in your 12th house. Now, the third house is the house of, how do I think about this? What do I think about it? The first house is, who am I? The second house is, well, what do I have? The third house is, what do I think about what I have and who I am? Mm-hmm. So transiting Neptune right now is moving through your third house. This is the Piscean house. Neptune is very at home here. He is languishing in his rulership, and in his lowest form, he is addiction, delusion, which is a good thing when we're disillusioned, because that means we're seeing clearly. He is codependency, and all of us have the addict archetype as a piece of our energetic makeup. I'm a book addict. I love books. I love taking classes. Those are my addictions. And I can get really lost in those things and wander off into the world of, guess what book I'm reading now, rather than staying really grounded and centered. Neptune in its highest is this beautiful androgynous energy of the shaman. Like this all-knowing, all-seeing, I've got the big picture and I can hold it all because I see clearly through the fog. Pisces is a water sign, and keep in mind that water comes in a variety of forms. It flows and moves and is clear, or even when it's still, which is often associated with Cancer, the water form of water that we most often feel. Scorpio is our other water sign. It is most often associated with frozen water, the inability to get all of our expression out and to release because it's frozen, and frozen water still moves. Think of a glacier. It's just moving so slowly we can't see it. And it's creating this massive, deep transformation. I live in Minnesota, and the whole northern part of our state was formed by glacier movement. We have all these lakes, and one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world is in northern Minnesota. So Scorpio is this slow moving water energy, and Pisces is our third water sign, which is this fog. So it's water in its vapor form. So that's Pisces and Neptune squaring off with your natal Pisces and Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is a water sign, and it's in the 12th house. And the 12th house is this ending piece of the zodiac. It's the ending piece of the houses where we move into death and release. And when I say death and release, I mean the release of the idea that we're somehow separate from anybody. I am you and you are me. That is a 12th house truth. It is this mystical truth that we are all so deeply connected. At some point, the water that is moving through me is going to move through you, because we are on planet in physical form at the same time, and water is consistently changing and moving. And your 12th house is Sagittarius, which is this fire sign. It's this house of philosophy and experimentation and learning and growth. So your Neptune is here learning and growing and experimenting and figuring things out. And this Neptune square is asking you, what is your truth? Can you see yourself clearly through the fog? And how much of the collective addictions and unconscious drive is coming up against and kind of clashing with you? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
These transits are slow. They're slow movers. Neptune and Pluto are outer ring planets. They are slow movers. Just a lot of gentleness and a lot of patience. Also want to highlight your nodal axis, your houses that are going to be lit up for the eclipse, for this nodal transit. So until July of 2023 is your 5th house, your house of creativity and expression. How do you play in the world? This is your house of sexuality and sexual energy, keeping in mind that sexual energy is creative energy. And your house of community is the 11th house. So this house of community and bringing your play, bringing your creativity, bringing your fun. Because an opposition can feel like a pulling apart. It's a tension, and tension is a gift. Because if there was no tension, there was no gravity. Gravity is a type of tension. What do we have here? How our earth is pressed to create precious minerals and stones and rocks and crystals. That is a type of tension. The cat launching himself off the bookcase, tension. So an opposition can feel like a pulling apart. And when it feels like a pulling apart, there's this space that gets created that we then get to fill with whatever our little hearts desire. An opposition can also feel like a forging, a pushing in and a honing. And when you think about coal under pressure, we end up with a diamond. So just know that you're going to see a lot of opportunity, challenge, change in your creative expression. And so play with it. Be playful and be joyful, and utilize the opportunities in your communities to feel into what works for you and what doesn't. And then the last piece I want to touch on really fast is your natal Saturn. He's this guy up here. No, I'm sorry. No, where'd he go? There he is. He's in your 11th house. That's why I was saving him for last, is because Saturn is in your 11th house. He's this cross and this little hook here. He is at 3 degrees, so he's conjunct your MC. Now, your MC is your midheaven. This is the southmost point on your natal compass. And it's an opportunity for leadership, and your leadership sits in community. And it's going to come through your work. Because like I said, Saturn is this workhorse. He's the carpenter. He's going to build things. That's in his highest form. In his shadow, he is this cold, restrictive, like distorted father energy who wants to place his rules on everybody else. So anytime you feel yourself wanting to place your own values on anyone else, that's our distorted Saturn. We all do it. I don't know a single creature that is embodied and a human that does not do that. And when we can rise above it and just hold the big container, Saturn will hold whatever we ask him to build. He's bringing it in. He's a boots on the ground kind of guy. So that was a lot. I am going to stop screen sharing, and I'm going to kind of just open up the door for questions. Monica, do you have any questions? We'll start with your questions first.
Just curious, just curious because I was born like September 24th. So I sometimes feel like I'm more Virgo than Libra. Does that make sense or not really?
That does make sense. You have a cuspy sun, and we are all the things. That's one of the things I love about astrology. Horoscopes can get us really caught and stuck in our sun sign, which, yeah, we are a sun, but we're not just one piece. So your Virgo is your 9th house, which is your house of your personal relationship with spirituality. And you have Mercury there. You have Haumea there, right? Don't have my glasses on. And you have Nemesis there. So Virgo is detail oriented. I am a recovering perfectionist. I know where my Virgo sits. And Virgos can be control freaks. I love you, Virgo sons. And how do we recover from that need to control everything around us is we bring it inside and we recognize this is the only place we can control. So it does make absolute sense that you can feel your Virgo tendencies quite heavily. And when you bring in that Libra sun, it gives you the opportunity to practice balance, practice seeking balance. Does that make sense? Does that resonate? Yeah. Fabulous. Any other questions?
Way too many, but I'll leave space for the others to ask questions.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Monica, for volunteering your chart. And because I know it can be a very, very vulnerable thing. Does anybody else have questions? I know we're keeping this at an hour, so I want to really be aware of everyone's time. So questions, comments, dedications, requests, come play with me in the Archetypal Astrology group, because I do unpack a lot of this stuff on a deeper level. I will be talking about Aries, Venus entering Aries today. Jackie, I'm a Gemini and launching a new project with a colleague. Seems right on for the current sign. Wonderful. Thank you, Jackie, for being here. I appreciate it.
I had a question, Amy.
Yeah.
For those of us who don't have extensive knowledge on astrology, what would you suggest as kind of like a little pre-learning, before we work with you or before we start to expand our knowledge?
I literally entered astrology through charts. And when I entered astrology, I was like, too much, I gotta go. So I work with people. One of the reasons I read whole sign charts is because it is more accessible and it's easier for people to learn. I co-host a podcast called Rooted Cosmic Wisdom, which is available in all the podcast places, as I like to say. And we do a series called Astrology 101. where we do a seasonal astrology release. And then we have kind of special things that talk about Mercury retrograde or eclipses. And then we have our Astrology 101 series, which dives into the light and the shadow of each sign, and kind of plays with the energy of everything. I am an experiential learner myself. So while I read a lot of books, I also spend a lot of time playing with the energies of things. My women's circle can be a really good way into astrology. This month we're working with Mars, as I said earlier. And so what I do is I take one archetype and I pull a chart for every single woman in circle, and every single woman gets a specialized individual reading based on her natal Mars placement and how the transiting Mars is working with her chart energies. So it can be more accessible from the standpoint of it's working with one energy, because it looks like a lot, right? Looking at these charts feels like a huge amount, and it's a language to learn and it takes time.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily have any books. Demetria George wrote a book about the planetoids that I like. Raven Caldera wrote a book called Myth Astrology, but it does, none of these really like dive into the chart questions you're asking.
Right.
I know I have someone that is dear to me that has Astrologies for Dummies 101. And I've been reading that just because I'm like, what does this book say? Because I'm always digging. So I would say join the archetypal astrology group, ask questions, and don't hesitate to book readings or dive into stuff because you think you need to know before you get there. Anybody who's not willing to ask your questions and like meet you where you're at, because I do set up, if I've got a bunch of new women in Women's Circle, I will set up an astrology like 101 hour that is just on the house, where we go over what do these numbers mean? What do the glyphs mean? And kind of work with the new group to bring them in to the fold by giving them an Astrology 101 kind of class.
Great. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Anybody else in our last 5 minutes?
I have one question before we wrap up.
Please.
So I love like longer week over week, or however it may be, coaching containers. And I'm curious if if there's a way that you can work with somebody that would, like, we would do like the first time, right? We go over and we're just like, okay, this, these are like the main themes of your chart, and then be able to go really, really, really deep into a specific house and see like the different placements, the different ways that the, that the energies affect, you as an individual. Because like, I feel like astrology it's like an iceberg, right? Like we can sit here for an hour and we can talk about like, okay, what's going to happen in May, and like take a look at what, at Monica's chart for a little while, but it's just like, there's so much underneath the surface. And I feel like it would be such an incredible journey to be able to kind of go one-on-one a little bit deeper. So is that, two questions, I guess. One question, is that something you offer? And then, okay, great. And then the follow-up question is that something that you would offer? Because I think that would be a really cool way to just explore with you and to learn.
So I do it at a variety of price points. So I do the Women's Circle, and that is, everybody tends to join in the first 2 weeks of the month. And then I close enrollment for that month, because what happens is I'm pulling charts for every single individual and reading for May, every single woman's Mars natally, how her lifelong Mars energy is going to affect her, as well as the transiting Mars. So I do write-ups, and then I channel video readings for every single woman that gets sent out, and they can keep them as long as they want. And then I'm available to every woman. I answer questions, emails. Around mid-month, I send out some kind of support, which is usually a card pull. I will story tell. I will lead a meditation or a physical group exercise. And then at the end of the month, the whole group meets via Zoom, and we kind of unpack all of the ways everybody saw, for May, Mars show up in their life. And it's fun. And the nice thing about the women's circle is your participation is totally dependent. I have what I call ghost members in my women's circle, who are women who get their reading and watch the mid-month support and never ever show up for one of the Zoom calls. And so it's all that piece is based on how you want to do it. If you want to do a really deep dive, I have a program called Journey Inward, where it's either a 6-session package or a 10-session package, where we will dive in. And I do a couple things with that. We can dive in and unpack astrology. We can cast what is called your sacred contract, where we find your 12 primary archetypes, and we do all of the work to cast that. And then we lay your astrology chart over it.
That is so cool. I'm excited. I'm going to take a look and see what there is there. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and your brilliance and your time. Community, thank you all so much for showing up here this morning or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Come hang out in the app, post on the community thread. We're super excited to have all of you here. And what an incredible gift to build this with all of you. So thank you so much. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Come play with me in the Archetypal Astrology group. And I believe we're doing these the first Monday of every month, right, Hannah?
I think it's a thing. We can totally make it a thing.
Feels like a thing.
All right. Beautiful.
Thank you all. Have wonderful
Bye,
days.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.